So this is a 10-minute, 360-degree tour of the Ford Model A, the one that came after the Ford Model T. This one was basically, well, Henry Ford, with the original Model T, he thought, well, hang on a minute, that's the perfect car available in black, don't need to change it at all. His son came along and then went, no, let's make it available in different colours, let's change it completely and call it the Ford Model A, and that's what we're rocking and rolling in.
Shut up, Tim, let's drive.
Go on then. You need to concentrate in this, you need silence to get your head around what's going on.
It's great. No, you can have a conversation in it, but it is a very involved drive. So you have to double declutch. So you have to synchronise the engine and gearbox speeds together.
Yep.
So if I want to change down a gear from top, which is only third gear,
right.
There are only 3 forward gears. If I want to change down from top to second, I have to go down on the clutch, rev the engine, down on the clutch again, change gear.
So you're down on the clutch, then you go into neutral, right?
Yeah.
And then you make sure that the engine and gearbox are running at the same speed.
That's right.
Down on the clutch again and into gear.
That's it.
And because they're both going at the same time, they will then interconnect.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
They will synchronise.
Yes, right.
Rather than having synchro mesh, which does it all for you.
Does it for you, right. Come on, talk me through the drive of the Ford Model A then. What's it like?
Well, it's quite involved. You have to look around you, and you certainly have to look ahead, because the brakes, well, I'm going to emergency brake now. You ready?
No, I'll tell you when to do the emergency brake.
Okay, you
I'm
ready?
going to tell you when to, no, I'm ready, just wait.
Okay, you ready?
There's a goose in the road, stop the car! Stop, that said stop. We're still going, you've run over its goose, its brothers, the whole lot of the Goslings are dead. All its chicks, he's killed the whole family.
Collateral damage, I'm afraid.
That wasn't an emergency stop, that was a rubbish stop.
That was. Okay, let's go.
Wow, so the emergency stop doesn't exist in a vintage car?
Well, it does.
Where?
But, well, it starts a long time before you put your foot on the brake pedal. You have to watch what's going on. That's it. This is vintage driving. Be aware of what's going on around you. Instead of a car doing everything for you, you're doing everything for the car.
So if there was, for example, me in a pram being rolled out into the road, what would you do?
Well, I'd probably, if I need to really stop quickly and avoid the pram, then I have to drive into the ditch or into the hedge or anywhere but ahead.
But what would you do if it was me in a pram?
I can't imagine you're in a pram. What, with your legs sticking out and looking all weird?
No, I wouldn't be, no, don't be, no, it's not that. It's just a normal, I'm a baby.
Well, I know.
No. Anyway,
like an adult baby.
Shut up.
You do that sort of stuff,
No, yes, all the time. That's where I met you. God, I'll tell you something, it is really shaky in here, Fuzz. I'm being thrown around all over the place. It's not good for stretch marks, this car. It's not, I can feel that I'm going to come out of this covered in stretch marks, in places that I shouldn't stretch.
Don't worry about it, Tim. You'll look great.
What, because I'm in a Ford Model A? I'll tell you something, you are distracted, dude. You are not with me at the moment. What are you doing? Where
I've got
are
a lot to do. I was doing the indicators. I was changing gear. I was looking around me. And also...
Yeah, let's talk about these two sticks, because on a modern car, that's your indicator and that's your windscreen wipers.
Right, okay, so I've got 2 little levers here.
Yes.
The one lever is the advance and retard. So that advances or retards the ignition. When I retard the ignition, that's for when the ignition's retarded, when you're...
See, you can't focus.
Okay.
You can't talk.
Okay. Right, so when you're idling, when the engine's just ticking over, you have the ignition retarded. The spark's happening later.
Yes.
Because there's more time to burn the fuel, because the engine's turning over more quickly.
Yeah.
When the engine's turning over, because the engine's... I'm getting all this wrong.
You see, you're getting the wrong way round.
When the engine's turning slowly, you can have the spark happening later, so you can burn all the fuel. But when the engine's turning quickly, when you're going at speed or cruising along, then you advance.
Okay, you've now stopped driving and now you're talking.
You advance the
ignition. We are almost
then,
in a stunt.
and then there's more time for the fuel to burn. Right, I've said it now.
Right, now you can drive again.
Okay. Thank you.
You can't have an argument in this car, you can't drive this car on tour. This is it should just be one seat in this car.
Well, yeah, no. Back in the day, passengers in a car were in awe of the driver. They were looking around. Going at 30, 40, 50 miles an hour was unheard of.
Why you like vintage cars.
Why?
Because
It
you hope
shuts you up.
that you hope that people will look at you and just be in awe of you in it. You know, here we are. Here's the truth.
Listen, it's a good look. If you want people to notice you in a car, don't bother getting one of those big bad boy V8 monster cars.
Well, like the ones I've got.
Like the ones that you've
289,
got.
302 Mustang.
That's the poor
whichever
choice.
one.
Get one of these, everybody will smile, and you get loads of conversations along the way. It's beautiful. People give way to you on the road. It's perfect. This is the way to drive. Motoring at its best.
Do you know what it is? I feel like I've entered the development stage of the car. It's where it is today, and this was like somehow I've jumped into a team of developers and said, pause what you're doing with this prototype and let's have a look at it.
What? No, this is perfect. Look, remember that before this you had the Model T, and that was basically made for people, it's a bit loud in here, that was made for people who were used to driving horse and carriages.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you drive a horse?
Well, you don't, but you know, the horse does the pulling kind of thing. You know, that sort of thing. It was very much more involving the hands, whereas this uses the feet a lot more. Your hands do the steering. They're left alone to do the steering. And the gear changing a bit. And of course the advance and retard. And the hand throttle, of course.
And all that stuff.
Yeah.
This car for me brings about like weird thoughts.
What?
Well, like there's a bird in the road up there. Look, it just flew off up there, right? And I'm aware of the fact that a bird can fly, it can run, it can hop, it can sing,
yes.
it can jump, it can swim, it can do all these things.
That's
all these
right.
amazing things that a bird can do. But we can't do that. So we need to invent things called cars to move quickly, whereas they can fly.
Yeah.
And isn't it amazing that we as human beings need... I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just what this car does to my head. It does. See, I can't focus on anything either. It's just weird.
But let's face it, these cars are about 90 years old now.
Look at you struggling to get some words out again. You're like me. It's
I'm just
rock
keeping
on.
it running while we're coming up to a junction.
Right, so conversation comes to a halt now when we're at a junction. Lots of things are going on down there. There's a massive shaky gear knob there. The handbrake is shaking as well. All the pedals are shaking like mad on the floor. The steering wheel is a nice piece of Bakelite by the looks of things. It's a big old steering wheel, therefore you get more leverage on turning it because power steering wasn't invented back then in the day. We're negotiating an interesting junction here. Fuzz is in the zone, which you have to be all the time when you drive one of these cars.
Well, that's right. Well, I have to think about...
No, don't talk. We're at a big crazy junction. Don't even talk.
I need to think about pulling out, so I need plenty of time.
Okay, don't
These
talk
cars
then.
are moving very quickly in comparison, and I've got a blind...
I'm not blind.
I've got a blind hill there,
Right.
just right there. So I need to move smartly away.
Right. Well done, son. We made it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there we have it. 10 minutes inside the Ford Model A, which has been an exciting journey. Sorry if you got absolutely no sense from either of us doing this, but I think if you were doing what we're doing now, you'd understand.
I don't think that was 10 minutes. I think you've got a bit to go, yeah? Should we try? Let's just try an emergency stop. Are you ready?
Yeah, go on then.
Now!
Go on then, when? You're just freewheeling.
No. I'm hard on the brakes.
That's the accelerator, right? There,
Yeah, it's a hand
spare
throttle.
one.
Well, I don't want it to cut out when we're braking hard because the petrol surges to the front of the carburetor, floods it,
Floods it about.
and it stops.
Yeah.
Lots of movement.
I love the thought that there would have been a time when people got into this car in the 30s and they saw it as being in the same way that we get into whatever, modern car, any modern car, whether it be a Bugatti Veyron or an Audi TT or whatever. You get in and go, wow, this is the future. Look at all these gadgets and features. People would have done exactly the same in this. Getting into this and going, oh my word, it has a fuel gauge, it has a speedometer down here, it has some fancy sort of metal door opener.
Don't pull that.
That's the door
That's
opener.
the door handle.
I would go out of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. Look at this fancy window winder. It looks like a part of a sort of candle holder or something like that.
You're forgetting something, Tim. It's got a roof as well.
Oh yeah, so the roof comes down.
A lot of early cars didn't even have roofs.
Oh, hang on, the roof doesn't come down.
No, it doesn't. No, it's got a
Of course
roof.
it does.
we're out. It's got a roof as well. We're motoring in the dry. Isn't that a good thing?
This car, to me, what it's for is for getting you to point B on your journey. Because the alternative may have been a horse. The alternative might have been walking or jogging or maybe a push bike. So this thing is a fantastic alternative.
Brilliant.
Incredible.
Now, can you imagine back in the 1920s and 30s, people went out for a drive, just for a drive. A lot of people did.
Yeah.
Sunday drivers.
Yeah.
These cars were used for Sunday driving.
Because if you didn't have a car like this, the alternative would be bouncing around on the back of a horse. That is an animal that you're not, frankly, that in control of.
Honestly, most people walked. You had public transport, you had trams,
Yeah.
you had buses emerging as well at the same time as these. But mostly
What was it like back then?
walking, bicycles.
Do you remember those days?
They were brilliant, wonderful. You weren't born.
No. Did you go through the Boer War?
No, but I'm going through a bore in time now. Talking to you.
Yeah. Life goes at a different pace when you're in one of these, doesn't it?
Do you know something that's happened?
What?
You've started to shut up.
It's calmed me down.
Yeah.
Never
there we
happened.
are. There we
Actually,
are.
to be fair, I can feel I'm a little bit.
Oh, so tight.
Whoa, cornering, it feels like it wants to roll.
Yeah, it does. You have to move with it. It's a little bit like a motorbike.
Well, so you lean into the corner?
Yeah, I'm leaning into the corners. If you're not, you'll be out the door, mate.
Wow. This does feel like being in we've interrupted the car design process mid-prototype, and this was just going to get tried out for a little bit, and then they were going to better quite a lot of the problems it has. But nope, that was just the time. That was the 1930s. Where are we going?
Turning around.
I love trying to get my head into a space where my grandparents or my grandparents' parents would have got into this, looked around it in awe, in amazement. I don't know if you can hear me because it's so noisy in here because everything's wanting to fall off and the gearbox feels like it wants to rip teeth off the cogs. But the idea that people would get into this and look around and just be so amazed by how beautiful it is.
Shut up and enjoy the drive.
Feels like being on a pogo stick. You've been on a pogo stick.
Not for a long time. We're bouncing around, we're wobbling.
This car is a cross between a wheelbarrow and a pogo stick.
This car is beautiful. Get a vintage car. Drive a vintage car even.
I think that's the experience. I think being the driver, I think, as you mentioned earlier about people will be in awe of the driver, it's because as a passenger, it's not the best experience, and you look at the driver and you
It's
think,
a skill.
what,
It's
enjoying
a skill.
this?
Driving the car is a skill.
Yes, I agree. And you're showing off. You are though, aren't you? You're like, yep, look at me, look what I can do.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Sorry, I'm concentrating again.
So the concept of this car, let me see if I can get this right. When you drive this, you're demonstrating new skills to the passenger, which you hoped and would prefer it to be a female, and someone who, because I'm admiring all the things that you're doing,
Just anyone I fancy,
now fancies you.
maybe. Yeah, but we're having a brilliant time. We're driving. We're going somewhere. We're going somewhere quickly and comfortably and in the dry. And it's a beautiful, beautiful experience.
Look at you trying to use your zen, your calm voice, trying to just enjoy it, but you've got this rattle in your ear and it's me.
Vintage cars give me that zen.
Not with me beside you, they don't do.
Even with you there.
Wow, that's an achievement. Come on,
Come
let's
on.
get it back to the workshop, eh?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.